You didn't stumble across this video by accident. That restless feeling that's been building inside you, that sense that something massive is shifting beneath the surface of your reality, that's not random. That's the universe recognizing you're finally ready to receive what most people will never even glimpse. If something pulled you here right now, if these words are landing differently than they would have 6 months ago, it's because you've crossed an invisible threshold. You're no longer just someone who wishes things were different. You've become someone the universe can actually work with. Something's been stirring inside you lately, hasn't it? Those moments when you catch yourself staring out windows, feeling like you're supposed to be somewhere else, doing something else, being someone else entirely. That weird sensation that everyone around you is operating from a script you can no longer read. The way certain songs hit deeper now, certain conversations feel hollow, certain routines that used to comfort you now feel like prison cells. You've been noticing the synchronicities, numbers showing up repeatedly, conversations that eerily mirror your thoughts, people saying exactly what you needed to hear, just when you needed to hear it, books falling open to specific pages, random encounters that feel orchestrated by some invisible hand. Your dreams have been different too, more vivid, more symbolic, sometimes feeling more real than your waking hours. There's this growing awareness that the life you've been living is just the surface level of something much deeper, like you've been walking around in a house for years, content with the ground floor, and suddenly you've discovered there are entire levels above and below that you never knew existed. The walls feel thinner now. Reality feels more fluid. You're starting to sense the machinery behind the curtain. Maybe you've been getting headaches in crowded places, feeling overwhelmed by energies that didn't used to affect you, or finding yourself drawn to solitude in ways that surprise you, craving silence like you never have before. Your tolerance for superficial interactions has plummeted. Small talk feels like sandpaper on your soul. You can sense when people are performing rather than being authentic, and it makes you want to run. What you're experiencing isn't random. You're part of a rare group that most people never join. See, the universe doesn't waste this kind of awakening on everyone. It's selective, deliberate. Most people spend their entire lives sleepwalking through predetermined patterns, never questioning, never sensing there might be more. They're content with the surface, with the explanations they were given as children, with the reality that was handed to them. But you're different. You operate on a frequency that allows you to receive signals others can't even detect. You have what I call quantum sensitivity, the ability to perceive layers of reality that remain invisible to most. This isn't about being special in some ego-driven way. This is about having a nervous system that's naturally attuned to subtleties, a consciousness that refuses to be satisfied with simple explanations. Most people live their entire lives within the boundaries of consensus reality. They accept that what they can see, touch, and measure is all there is. They dismiss intuition as wishful thinking, synchronicity as coincidence, and that deep knowing in their gut as imagination. They've been conditioned to trust external authority over internal wisdom, to value logic over intuition, to fear what they can't explain. But something in you has always known better. Even as a child, you probably sensed there were hidden dimensions to existence. You might have had imaginary friends who felt incredibly real, or experienced moments of knowing things you had no way of knowing. Maybe you could sense when someone was lying, or feel the emotional atmosphere of a room the moment you walked in. These weren't quirks or phases. They were evidence of your natural ability to perceive beyond the veil. The reason transformation calls to certain souls and not others comes down to spiritual DNA. Some people
of them won't
incarnated
like it,
here
because your
to maintain the
readiness
status
threatens
quo,
their comfort.
to
Your
keep
growth
systems running,
challenges their
to
stagnation.
populate the world with predictable energy. But others, people like you, came here to evolve, to push boundaries, to serve as bridges between what is and what's possible. You're part of the universe's upgrade mechanism. This is why you've never quite fit in anywhere. This is why conventional success formulas left you feeling empty. This is why you've always sensed you were meant for something bigger, even when you couldn't articulate what that might be. You weren't meant to fit into existing structures. You were meant to outgrow them. Being chosen comes with a specific path, and there's a hidden map that reveals exactly where you are in this journey. Most people going through spiritual transformation think they're losing their minds because no one ever explained the territory. But there's actually a precise sequence to this awakening, a predictable progression that follows natural laws as reliable as physics. The first phase is what I call the stirring. This is where you are right now, that restless dissatisfaction with everything that used to work for you. Your old goals feel meaningless. Your relationships feel strained. Your career might feel like you're slowly dying inside. This isn't depression, though it might look like it from the outside. This is your soul preparing for expansion by loosening your attachment to everything that's keeping you small. During the stirring, you start questioning everything. Beliefs you've held your entire life suddenly seem questionable. People you've always trusted start saying things that don't resonate. The news feels like noise. Social media becomes intolerable. You're being prepared for the next phase by naturally losing interest in anything that operates at a lower frequency than where you're headed. Then comes the dissolution, where your old identity starts cracking like an eggshell. This is the most disorienting phase because you're literally watching yourself disappear. The stories you've told yourself about who you are, what you want, what matters to you, all of it starts feeling foreign. You look in the mirror and sometimes don't recognize the person staring back. Your own thoughts feel like they're coming from someone else. This is where most people panic and try to rush back to familiar territory. They'll take any job, accept any relationship, adopt any belief system that makes them feel solid again. But the dissolution isn't punishment, it's preparation. You can't become who you're meant to be while clinging to who you used to be. The caterpillar doesn't add wings to its existing form. It literally dissolves into soup before reorganizing as a butterfly. The void navigation phase comes next, and this is where you learn to be comfortable with not knowing. Your old reference points are gone, but your new ones haven't solidified yet. You're in between worlds, between identities, between versions of reality. This is actually the most powerful phase because you're pure potential. You're not bound by any preconceptions about what's possible for your life. Most people can't handle this level of uncertainty. They need to know who they are, where they're going, what everything means. But void navigators develop a different relationship with uncertainty. They learn to surf chaos instead of trying to control it. They discover that not knowing is actually more creative than knowing, because knowing limits possibilities, while not knowing keeps all doors open. The reconstruction phase is where you start solidifying into your new form, but it's nothing like rebuilding with old materials. You're working with completely different components now. Your values are different. Your priorities are different. The way you make decisions is different. You are literally operating from a different part of your consciousness. than you were before. During reconstruction, you start recognizing your new gifts, abilities you never knew you had begun surfacing. Your intuition becomes incredibly sharp. Your ability to read people and situations becomes almost supernatural. You start attracting opportunities and people that align with your new frequency. It's like the universe has been waiting for you to become this version of yourself so it could deliver what was always meant for you. Finally comes the integration, where your new identity stabilizes and you learn to live from this expanded state consistently. You're not the same person who started this journey, but you're also not trying to be anyone else. You've become authentically yourself for the first time. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. Integration means you can move between different levels of consciousness fluidly. You can operate in the ordinary world when needed, but you never forget the deeper dimensions you've discovered. You become a bridge person, someone who can translate between different levels of awareness, helping others who are ready for their own transformation. But here's what no one warns you about. The universe has one final test that eliminates 90% of people right before breakthrough. Just when you think you've made it through the hardest parts, just when you're starting to feel solid in your new identity, everything you've built gets shaken to its foundation one more time. This is what I call the last guardian, and it's the most brutal part of the entire process. Your old identity makes one final attempt to reclaim control. Every fear you thought you'd overcome comes rushing back with doubled intensity. Every doubt you thought you'd resolved starts screaming in your ear. Every person in your life who benefited from your old patterns suddenly becomes desperate to pull you back. The last guardian shows up as a crisis that feels like it's going to destroy everything you've worked toward. Maybe it's a financial emergency that makes you want to grab any security you can find. Maybe it's a relationship that implodes just when you thought you'd found your person. Maybe it's a health scare that makes you question whether this whole transformation thing was just self-indulgent nonsense. This isn't random chaos. This is a precisely calibrated test. The universe is asking you one final question. Are you really ready to let go of everything you used to be? Or are you going to retreat into familiar patterns the moment things get difficult? Most people fail this test. They decide that maybe their old life wasn't so bad after all. They convince themselves that seeking transformation was naive, that they should just be grateful for what they have. The psychological warfare during this phase is intense because your old identity knows this is its last chance. It will use every trick in the book to convince you that you're making a mistake. It will remind you of every time you failed before. It will show you examples of other people who tried to change and ended up worse off. It will make transformation seem dangerous, selfish, unrealistic. Your family and friends, especially those who weren't supportive of your changes, will suddenly seem very concerned about your well-being. They'll suggest you're going through a phase, that you should slow down, that you're losing touch with reality. Their concern will feel genuine, and part of you will want to listen because the last guardian makes you doubt everything you've learned about yourself. You'll be tempted to interpret every setback as evidence that you were wrong about your path. Every challenge will feel like punishment for daring to believe you could be more than you were. The synchronicities might stop. The clarity might fade. You might feel more lost and confused than you did before this whole journey started. But here's the secret about the last guardian. It only attacks what's real. If your transformation was just wishful thinking, there would be nothing to guard against. The intensity of the resistance is actually proof that you're approaching something authentic and powerful. The old patterns are fighting so hard because they sense their time is up. This final test isn't trying to stop you. It's trying to make sure you're really ready for what comes next. Because once you pass through the last guardian, there's no going back. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you've learned. You can't pretend to be satisfied with less than who you've become. But there are specific navigation tools that can carry you through this final storm. The first is recognizing the last guardian for what it is. When everything falls apart just as you're making progress, that's not bad luck. That's the final examination. Instead of seeing crisis as evidence you're on the wrong path, see it as evidence you're exactly where you need to be. The second navigation tool is anchoring yourself in your deepest truth. During the last guardian phase, you can't rely on external validation or temporary feelings. You have to know beyond any doubt that the person you're becoming is worth fighting for. This knowing doesn't come from logic or evidence. It comes from that unshakable place inside you that recognized itself in these words. The third tool is understanding that this phase is temporary. The last guardian feels eternal when you're in it, but it's actually the shortest phase of the entire transformation. It's intense precisely because it's brief. Like a fever breaking, the crisis burns through quickly once you stop resisting it and start moving through it instead. The fourth navigation tool is maintaining your practices even when they feel pointless, especially when they feel pointless. Meditation, journaling, time in nature, whatever connects you to your deeper truth. These lifelines become more important during the last guardian, not less. Your old identity will try to convince you that these practices are useless distractions, but they're actually what keep you tethered to your authentic self while everything else shakes loose. The final navigation tool is finding your tribe. You can't go through the last guardian alone. You need people who understand the territory, who won't try to talk you out of your transformation, who can remind you of who you're becoming when you forget. These aren't necessarily people who were in your life before. Often, they're souls who show up precisely when you need them most. As you implement these codes, you'll start noticing the person you're becoming, and they're more magnificent than you imagined. The you that emerges from this process isn't just a better version of who you used to be. They're operating from a completely different paradigm. Where you used to seek validation, they generate it from within. Where you used to fear uncertainty, they dance with it. Where you used to feel separate from life, they feel intimately connected to everything. This new version of you doesn't waste energy on things that don't matter. They can sense immediately whether something is aligned with their truth or not. They don't get pulled into drama because they're vibrating at a frequency where drama can't stick. They don't need to convince anyone of anything because their presence speaks louder than their words. You're becoming someone who trusts their instincts completely, not the paranoid, fear-based instincts of the ego, but the calm, clear knowing that comes from your expanded consciousness. You can walk into any situation and immediately sense what's really happening beneath the surface. You can meet someone and know within minutes whether they're operating from authenticity or performance. The relationships in your life are transforming. People who can't handle your new frequency are naturally drifting away, not through conflict, but through organic disconnection. Meanwhile, you're attracting people who celebrate your growth, who aren't threatened by your evolution, who actually become more themselves in your presence. rather than less. Your relationship with work is changing too. Whatever you're doing for money right now might not survive this transformation, but what replaces it will be infinitely more aligned with who you're becoming. You're developing an intolerance for any activity that requires you to pretend to be smaller than you are. Your work is becoming an expression of your authentic self rather than a sacrifice you make to survive. You're also developing what I call sovereign discernment, the ability to receive input from others without automatically adopting their perspectives. You can listen to advice, consider different viewpoints, and absorb information without losing your center. You've become someone who processes everything through their own inner knowing rather than accepting external authority as automatically valid.